Hi, and welcome to From the Gallery. I'm your host, Lori Neuenfeld, Gallery Director in the Department of Art. Today I'm going to be speaking with Jacob Crook, who is the Exhibitions Coordinator in the Department of Art Galleries. Hi Jacob, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Lori.
And you are our newly appointed Exhibitions Coordinator. You just began this position in the fall of 2018, right?
Indeed.
Talk a bit about, I guess, your background. Let us know where you're from and what were you doing before you were appointed Exhibitions Coordinator?
So background, I'm Midwestern, born and raised from St. Louis, Missouri. Always had a lifelong interest in art. I've had a pencil in my hand since I was 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
And haven't really looked back since. Previous to starting this position, though, I taught for a year here as a lecturer in foundation, so teaching design and drawing. And 2 years, I guess a collective 3 years previous to that, I taught for 2 years at University of Missouri in Columbia as a printmaking, drawing, and design instructor, and for a year as an adjunct at Syracuse University where I did my graduate studies.
Great, so you've had experience living in different parts of the country. What do you think about Mississippi State so far?
It's warm.
It's warm.
Very warm and balmy. Refreshing change of pace from Syracuse.
We like to keep our artists indoors so they're working, they're productive. So you do have a background in art. Do you want to talk a bit about what kind of materials you use and your research?
Sure, absolutely. So my passion as far as media goes is printmaking, specifically the technique of mezzotint engraving, which is kind of an antiquated process. It was largely killed by photography around the early 19th century. But at the time of its invention, mezzotint was a technique for making reproductions of oil paintings when photography was not yet invented and lithography was not yet a process. It was, at the time of its creation, the only means of creating continuous tonal gradations in print media without using lines necessarily.
So what are you using? How are you making the image then?
The image is created on a sheet of copper that is textured to various different degrees using a tool called a mezzotint rocker, which is essentially a finely serrated blade that, as its name suggests, is rocked over the plate, creating various different pits of different depths on that surface. Each pit will hold a droplet of ink. So the way I explain it to students or other people interested is it's the printmaking equivalent of toning a sheet of paper entirely jet black and then erasing back to white.
Oh, okay.
So you start with kind of a sandpapery surface and then gradually polish that back towards a mirror finish. The less texture it has, the less ink will be held on the plate. The more texture, the darker the value of gray will be.
So what kind of ability does mezzotint give you over other forms of printmaking? Is it, like you said, just the equivalent of a sense of closer to a painting or the values?
It is I feel, a more painterly medium, whereas a lot of printmaking techniques tend to have a very bold and graphic type of mark making, whereas this mezzotint, I find it allows me a greater deal of subtlety within the imagery. It's also an entirely non-toxic process, so there's no acids or mordants or any caustic materials involved. I can literally make one of these images sitting on my couch.
Oh, wow. So how long then would you say the process to create a piece, and what size do you normally work in? Let's start there.
I've been working a little bit larger recently, and larger is a relative term within the mezzotint world. Generally, it's a very, very time-consuming process. Most artists work about 6x9, 5x8 size plate image. So I guess I'll use that size for reference. It takes me about 8 or 9 hours just to prepare the surface, so just to tone my paper or stretch my canvas, so to speak. And then depending on the complexity of the image, it could be anywhere from 20 to 50 hours at that scale.
Oh, wow.
Recently, I've been working much larger, though, so about 12 by 18, 18 by 24.
Which you say is not traditional for a mezzotint printmaker? It's
No.
No?
No.
So let's look at a sample of your work then.
Sure.
That way we can get a sense of what it is you're producing. We see it here up on the screen, very, very dark for those of us.
Yeah, very, very moody.
What are we looking at?
So the actual space that we're looking at in this image is a now destroyed, but at the time an abandoned mall in Kansas City, the Metro North Mall, which my sister-in-law grew up going to as a child, and she just knew of my tendency to gravitate towards very, very gloomy, dimly lit imagery, and I generally worked from nocturnal street lit scenes in suburbia, and she said, Jake, I know this isn't your usual subject matter, but do you want to go and do some urban spelunking at this mall and maybe get some new subject matter? And it was from the first footstep I laid into that space, I knew that there needed to be a series of work done from this.
I got to eavesdrop on you when you were leading a tour group through the gallery, and you talked about the role of the mall, how post World War II, it became a place, a gathering center, a place where people could shop indoors, away from nature, right?
Yeah, away from nature.
Fake nature, fake Main Street.
Yeah, fake downtown.
Yeah. But then how in today's times people have moved out of the malls again and returned to shopping outdoors in favor of the outdoor mall style, and it was just. I felt like the tour group they related to that, or they were fascinated by that.
They had a really overwhelming response to that, which I was delighted to see, because that tells me that obviously something I'm doing in the imagery is communicating the ideas that I'm trying to get across.
Right.
But my work for the last 7 to 10 years or so has kind of loosely followed a generally suburban theme, because that's my background. I grew up as a kind of middle-class white kid in isolated, meandering streets. Spanish Trails was the street that I grew up on. There was nothing Spanish or trail-like about it.
The names for the streets and even the subdivisions in suburbia, you always wonder, where are they getting this name from?
Yeah, it's always seemed to me like a kind of a happy, feel-good veneer placed on top of this very homogenized landscape.
So the idea of a very constructed upbringing, and it's all about the family, and then contrast to now what we've seen as being reclaimed by nature, right?
Right.
It's getting overgrown, it's getting run down, and nothing like how it was originally intended to be seen. And you're giving an audience a view into this that they're not supposed to see. Do you feel like that's being communicated in your work?
Based on the response that tour group gave me, I feel like I'm at least getting some of these concerns across. I intentionally leave all of these interiors and landscape images entirely unpopulated.
Yeah.
So they're totally empty of human activity and leave only the evidence of that having happened. So I don't really want to necessarily speak like moralistically to my audience. I want them to be more contemplative about the space. So without seeing their image or their likeness in the space, I feel like that prompts them to look more at what do these spaces tell humanity about us as a species, or if an alien life form were to just land in this space, what stories would that tell them about who we are or what our history was as a people.
Sure. Let's look at some more images. I know you brought 2 more.
Sure.
Which I believe they're both interior spaces. This is the second one. Is this the same mall, or is this?
The exact same mall. This image specifically is 180 degrees behind the first image we looked at. So if you were standing in the first image and then turned around, you'd be looking directly down this exact hallway.
And the first image was mezzotint. Is this also mezzotint? Is that right?
This is also mezzotint.
And what are the size of these? When you say they're working large, are these both considered large?
These are medium to large size within the mezzotint world, I would say. The first one was 9 inches tall by 24 inches across. This one is, I believe, 12 inches by 18 across.
Yeah. And let's look at the next image. Now, what about this piece? Tell us about this.
This is the size is the same size as the previous image, except turned vertical, so 18 inches tall and 12 inches across.
And is this a print too?
Yes, these are all mezzotints.
Okay, that's amazing. It has a photographic quality to it.
Yeah.
And what are we seeing here? Is this interior of the mall, another view?
Yes, this is a hall that I believe previously led to a security office within the mall. And I was really interested with this one. It was kind of a compositional departure from the rest of my work. I usually tend towards very, very expansive, vast spaces, and I wanted to see if I could do or communicate the same ideas using a little bit more truncated of a space with a little bit more. It's kind of looking through a window that's then going through another window, through a third window.
Yeah, this one you can't really place it as that mall, and we just feel like it's an interior. It's industrial.
Yeah, it's
and
a little
the
bit more
arrows.
vague.
How interesting that these arrows, right? They tell you visually, like, to look through this space.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And these three works are all three in the faculty exhibition that's currently up?
Two of the
Two of
three
them
are.
are.
The middle image that we looked at, there's a variation on that composition that I do have displayed as a large-scale charcoal drawing in
Okay.
the exhibit.
We have a poster for the faculty exhibition, which has some details we can show. The title of the show is Searching for Truth, and it is open now, and it's open until October 26th in the Cullisway Depot Art Gallery, which is the second floor of the Welcome Center. So it's next to Barnes & Noble and next to the stadium. Easy to find, and people can come between 9 to 5. And see different works by Department of Art faculty. I believe there's 21 different faculty members who've participated, including yourself, and it's everything from printmaking to photography, sculpture, ceramics, painting, illustration, digital work, graphic design. I mean,
It pretty much runs the full
it's
gamut.
a great show where you can see a variety of styles and materials. Your office is over there, and this was the first show that you installed. I always tell people when I describe what an exhibition coordinator does, it's a title that we have at Mississippi State for the person who, they do the physical installation and the movement of the artwork and the painting, the patching, the
Preparation of the
prepping.
walls and-
So much goes into it. Are you getting into the flow? Are you enjoying it?
I'm very much enjoying it.
Yeah.
I've always been a very hands-on person. Essentially, my artistic practice, as well as just my general interest for my whole life, I've always been a craftsman at heart. So working with objects, working with
Yeah.
materials has always interested me. And now I get to do that not only with the walls the artwork is going on, but the artwork itself. So I get to kind of treat the exhibit as a means of expressing my own curatorial interests.
Absolutely, and I know you and I work very closely together, so it's like I get to do the planning and prepping the show, but you get to do the physical, and in a way conceiving the gallery space like a giant work of art, and it's a real fun process, I think,
Absolutely.
to place the works in there. So we'll be looking forward to more great exhibitions, this dynamic duo that we have become in the future. What I guess are you looking forward to most in this new position?
I'm really looking forward to the Jerry Uelsman show that we'll have on display next January.
Yeah.
He's been a longtime favorite photographer of mine, and
good.
when you told me that was on the schedule, I got very excited.
That's right. We are going to make that happen. Jerry Uelsman, he will be coming to MSU, and the shows will be coming to MSU. Great black and white photography. Well, thank you for being on the show with us.
Thank you for having me, Lori.
And thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions or comments, please email me at lnewenfelt@caad.msstate.edu. Thank you.